I'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Looks like Josh is going to make his last one a doozy here.
Yeah. How much can we cram on
You almost
there?
ran out of alphabet letters.
I know.
We'll start with the first item of business, and that is the minutes of the board meeting May 9th and the special board meeting May 31st. Anybody have any corrections to make?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting May 9th, special board meeting May 31st. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business are the general fund vouchers, 79,512 through 79,622, and wire transfers, 2022-546 through 22-631.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is the public comments on agenda items. Does anybody have anything they want to make comments on? Okay, and seeing that, we'll move on to the next item of business then, is the approval of resignations.
Okay, so I have the list of resignations in there in your board packet. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, all extracurricular activities. So Mr. Dale Rosine, athletic director position, Mr. Blaze Wood, his IT support, and then head wrestling coach. Chad Eggert, head softball coach, and then Ryan Blanchard, junior high football coach.
I move to approve the resignations.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve our resignations. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of our hires.
Okay, so those are also in there. I did include 2 more since I shared with you through email. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positions, and then the summer student workers positions, which we typically do as well.
I move to approve the new hires.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the new hires. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the review of Fund 46 plan.
Okay, so I put the plan in there. For you guys to just take a look at. It was created, it was board approved on June 26, 2017. If you recall, the Fund 46 plan, at the time that you guys board approved it, we couldn't access the money for 5 years. There was a plan that needed to be developed, so that plan is there on that page, which we definitely exceeded that. The goal was to get 50% of the funding for the roof project on this building. We were able to get, after this year, we will have all of the money for the roof project, so we didn't have to ask the taxpayers for that. But with the Fund 46 plan, reached out to Baird just to see like how that works with the initial plan that was created. That money is allocated, was board approved and allocated for the roof project. So my question to them was, do we have to create a new plan? Can we continue putting money above and beyond that number for future plans? And the answer is yes to both those. So a new plan has to be created. You guys can use this template. There's no rush on it. All of the money, all the big ticket projects that you guys would come up would have to go through a bidding process and go through you anyway. So it's really up to you guys if you want to create a plan right now. If you know what the money should be used for in the future. I don't, like if the elementary needed a new roof, then we could immediately create a plan for that. But it most likely will be probably some smaller plans, smaller than this roof project. I would think, the track is in desperate need of repair. The parking lots, there's always, something that comes up with the parking lot. So I guess my recommendation to you guys would be just to know that the plan needs to be creative, and then once created again, you can use the same template. The verbiage wasn't anything I created. I just pulled it from DPI, and the link is to that DPI page. So you'll just have to come up with probably Mr. Peterson will recommend something in the future as far as what that money could be allocated for. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that money can continue to go into Fund 46, starting after this year, or even this year. If there's more than the amount for the roof project, which there most likely will be, then you just have to come up with a plan. Does that make sense? I feel like I was rambling a little bit there, sorry. Okay.
Yep.
So just wanted you guys to be aware of that. So no need for approval or...
All right, thanks, Josh. The next item of business is discussion of our 2022 annual meeting.
Okay, so I put in the notes, as a board, you will need to determine the date for the 2022 annual meeting. The past practice has been that you guys typically has been, since I've been here, it's always been the fourth Monday in August, which that puts you at August 22nd. And then last year we did 7 p.m. So.
Do I hear a motion? Or any discussion, but I guess.
Yeah, I move to keep it the same on the last Monday of August at 7 p.m.
Not the last Monday, so maybe say the 22nd.
Sorry.
The fourth.
The fourth Monday. Sorry, the fourth Monday in August. Usually is probably the
Usually.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
It's been properly moved and seconded that we have the annual meeting on August 22nd at 7 p.m. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of the 22-23 health and dental insurance renewal.
Okay, so there was a mistake.
Didn't we include that already?
We did, so I've told,
Can I just interject?
Yep.
It's not health and dental, it's long-term disability and life.
yeah. So it's under our health and dental agenda item. It's just the long-term disability and life insurance, thank you. So the original plan that you guys approved didn't include the bus drivers in that plan, and that was a mistake on our agent's part. And then Reliance has similar life and long-term disability plan, so the item will require board approval. So it's going to be the highlighted, so it's a Reliance. You guys had approved the principal version, or principal, I don't know, is that the company?
That's the company.
Yeah, and then the Reliance is the one that we need.
So we just need a motion to approve that.
Yeah.
I will entertain that motion. Christie?
I move to approve the 2022-2023 LTD and life insurance renewal.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve that insurance plan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business then is the approval of the 22-23 kinship program donation.
Okay, so the kinship program is a program that we have in the district through Polk County. It's a mentoring program where a high school student gets paired with an elementary student, and they meet on a weekly basis. It really is a wonderful program and benefits both the high school kids and the elementary kids. It's geared towards at-risk students. They started asking for donations. It's been past practice that the district donates $1,000 to the kinship program. So just put that up there if you wanted to do that, less or more. Totally up to you guys.
Have any of you guys know anything about the kinship program at all, Polk County?
No.
I know it's good. I mean, I think the high school students really enjoy it. I think with the problems we have in the elementary, I think anything we can do to help that is great.
Yeah, I got the privilege of being at a board meeting when they presented in order to get their money from the Polk County Board. And at that presentation, they had, I think one of the gals that works there went through that program, and she shared her story, and I thought that was pretty neat, the time and the energy that these people put into that. So
It used to be grant funded, and it still is grant funded, I believe, but it's not fully funded. Page 2 of the handout, you can see that's a picture of all of the students that are involved, both high school and elementary. Mr.
numbers
Peterson, if
going
you
up
have.
of kids wanting to,
I don't,
do the younger kids apply, or how does
Well,
Polk County pick which kids? be-
The staff members at the elementary generally tend to
Okay.
nominate kids, and then it's kind of limited by the number of high school kids that are available. You know, there's so many, and the high school kids, it's a pretty rigorous, you know, they screen them and interview them, and so there's kind of a cap. It's not a specific number, it's just more like what needs can we meet every year, you know? So it's, I don't know, it ends up being 20 or 30 kids
Yeah.
every year. So, I mean, I've had a couple of my high school kids go through it and be mentors. I can tell you they learn, you know, they gain as much from it as the young kids.
yeah,
The
my
mentees.
daughter was part of it this year, and
Yeah.
it was a wonderful experience
Yeah,
for her
that's
as well.
Is that all they need, is $1,000?
Well, they say 2,000.
Yep.
Should we give 2,000?
I would say 2,000.
It's up to you guys. They had asked for 2,000. It's been, I don't know if they based that off of numbers or where she got the 2,000.
It's probably just a standard ask across the board.
Originally, when they came to us, I think it was maybe 3 years ago, I'd asked for, was it more than that? Or-
No, it's been at least that
About
long
3.
ago. I would say maybe 5 or 6.
Since we've been donating?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd asked for her to just give us some like comparables. 1,000 was kind of right around the middle of the road. So there was no really, it was just an arbitrary, number that I other than the fact that it was kind of middle of the road for what other districts were donating. So,
Go ahead and make a motion, Skip.
To the 2,000? I move to approve the 2022-23 kinship program donation at $2,000 for the year.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to donate $2,000 to the kinship program. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the review of the Library Media Advisory Committee.
okay. Just put that on there again. Matt actually asked for it to be on there again. Just wanted, I emailed you guys kind of my concerns with it, and then really just put it on here again, just what direction you guys were looking. I met with almost all the individuals on the committee just to say, hey, it's going to go to the board. One of you guys mentioned last time that you were looking for some recommendations from the committee. So with my transitioning out, Mr. Peterson transitioning in, he'd probably facilitate that meeting as far as what their recommendation, the committee's recommendation would be.
So you haven't met with them yet?
Individually, with the exception of 2.
So as of right now, we've got SOAR on hold, right?
Yep.
Okay, so then the answer to anybody that's got any questions to that is we're thinking about it,
Yeah.
right? Until we do figure it out. So that buys us as much time as we need.
Yeah, and my intent with the email is just to, with Marcy coming in at the last meeting and saying it was inappropriate to use the word inappropriate, I strongly encourage you guys to look for yourselves. Don't believe me, don't believe Marcy. What is on that is and I'll use it again, grossly inappropriate. For me not even to be able to email you guys those and the term inappropriate content flagged it, I think that speaks to the level of, explicit content that's in there. I do think I met with Bo Osmond or Mr. Osmond with IT, and there is a way to restrict it through our smooth wall a little bit, but it's not ideal. So there is some level of internal, because I had asked him, I said, how is this possible? I can't even communicate with the board on what I'm trying to communicate is inappropriate. I did have another staff member reach out to me saying they had major concerns and that there is litigation, which I was unaware of. One of the districts in the state of Wisconsin was going through litigation specifically with SORA and the sexual content that kids were able to access. I know you got the email from one of the staff members today, which those would be concerns of my own too. If I had 4 kids, I have concerns on both ends. I wouldn't want my kids accessing.
And there's no way I would let any of my girls touch read the books.
Nanny gave me the
No
same
way.
books and
So this is just heinous to me. So number one, it's a felony for kids to be doing anything along the lines of what we're talking about outside of their age groups, right? Even in their age groups, I think it's against the law. And we're going to hand it to our kids to read? That's the one thought I had today. The other thought I had was, isn't our responsibility to not provide things in education that offend different groups? of people. And here we are with the group of people that would be offended would be the Christians, because what we're talking about, sexual activity, whether it be homosexual or heterosexual, is a sin, and that's the biggest group that's getting pushed right now to have to be they're trying to. It's offensive to that group. So I just don't understand. Is there a piece of could we put in place, not only for the library committee, but for the any other avenue of us giving information to kids? Is there a what the heck are the rules called in our big books? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Like policy?
Policy. Is there a blanket policy that we can put in place that just says simply, we don't provide things that offend any groups, or we try to satisfy not offending any groups within our district or any other, that would just nullify even having to talk about this stuff?
I feel like the policies that we created this year are in place. I feel like though the current SORA contradicts the policy. So when I met with the individuals, I said, this is unique. I'm transitioning. It's a little bit of a hot topic, and even with Mrs. Meyer and I said I believe even if you attach the H onto LGBTQ and add heterosexual, that H, the sexually explicit, like those are sexual terms, like the LGBT, all of those, that's an acronym specifically for sexual, so it has nothing to do with that group. If you had tied an H onto it for heterosexual, it's still the material that they are pushing is inappropriate, in my opinion. If there's, like I said, if there happens to be a character with one of those acronyms, that's different, but those are sexually explicit material that we wouldn't allow any teacher to have a movie of those. They'd be escorted immediately out of the building. We'd be doing an investigation. So I'm not sure why the books are appropriate. But anyway, the policies are in place. The 9130 or whatever policy that is, and then there's administrative guidelines, and then there's also something in place for parents to if they want to challenge one of the books or material in the district. So I feel like the things that are that need to be in place are in place. What we have now is, I don't think if SORA as is had to stay, it contradicts the policy. So the board would have to make a motion on the policy. Or get rid of policy if you guys wanted SORA to stay. So the issue is, how do you, and I think some of it is going to be addressed with Bo's, with our IT smooth wall being able to, and maybe when you guys invite him into a meeting as to why, because I couldn't understand why it wasn't flagging it, but then it would flag it when I would try to send you guys an email. It didn't make sense to me that you could check out the book, but if you screenshotted it and sent it in an email, it would say, that there would be a flag, and it gets sent to Mr. Malberg, and he would have to address it and figure out, which student accessed something inappropriate. So he thinks that he figured it out. All of the books have one address that they're kind of going through, and I'm going to mess this up as far as how I'm explaining it, but there's one address with SORA, and they're all under that one address. So he said there is a way to have individual addresses, so those books, some of those books are not accessible because they'd be deemed inappropriate content by the smooth wall. So it definitely is a hot topic. There's individuals on both sides. I don't know, and the reason I wanted you guys to see it is because I feel like the hot topic is just where people stand on the the political spectrum, and I was looking at it like, I don't care if you're
the sexuality
a Christian or not a Christian,
very
or
explicit.
It's just very.
It didn't matter who it was between to me. I mean, it was very descriptive, and it was explicit in the books I looked at.
So I know there's a few staff members that are very concerned about it, and then you guys received, or maybe two received today, concerned about having kids lose access to educational material, which I think that's a valid concern. So I threw it on there because I'm not sure what you guys want to do next. If you want to have,
so it's paused currently though.
It is.
Yeah.
So what my hope was that our library media committee, that this would fall under their wing, and they've got their directive, and it wouldn't come back to us unless it was okay, right? So is that how this should work? We throw it on them to review?
Well, even in our library media policy, in that committee, doesn't it say that there should be a board member on there? Like, I'm just thinking, do we become more involved in that committee?
Yeah, there's a board member if it's challenged and a parent if it's challenged. But I think either way, you guys need to, or Mr. Peterson need to look at, there's a handful of, I shouldn't say a handful, there's a couple of individuals that are no longer be on the committee, like myself.
Yeah.
There's Abby Witter. I think there's a third one as well. So there is a need to identify some more individuals to be on the committee as well, and have a voice at the table to start talking through that. It was a fast track committee, and I did have conversations with Marcy too, that I do think one valid argument that I feel like she has is there should be more voices at the table as far as talking through it. At the time, it was a fast track decision, and I don't regret the decisions that I made. I think they were right, but there definitely there could be more individuals at the table to have. And even when we started looking through the books that are purchased on a regular basis, there's just even silly books that shouldn't even need to be reviewed, like Clifford and little kids books. But there's so many books that we purchase. It's hard to have a smaller size committee go through all of them, because it's hard to know which one until you have them in front of you. It's hard to know, if they're age appropriate, if there's any sexual, content in it.
Well, I guess, I don't know. So then we'll have to repopulate that committee then, I guess. We'll put that on the next agenda, I guess. And as long as, if we can't guarantee 100% that material's not going to reach any of our kids in our district, then as far as I'm concerned, SOAR's off the table. And then let's plan on having that committee do that work for us, right? They know what they know what their directives are, and they know what our policies are, so that should take care of the problem.
Do we want this solved before the school year starts?
I think we need it solved before the school year starts.
So that's kind of hard with committee potentiality stuff in the summer. Yes, no?
Can be done, I think.
Okay.
People can come in.
The individuals that are currently on the committee, I did share with them, with the exception of two. I said the board will most likely be looking for a recommendation from you guys, so there's a possibility of a meeting this summer. You'd be compensated, if that does happen, to come in, and they were, all of them that I talked to were more than willing to come in. And
So can we say we want it solved before summer, so it needs to come to us, or before school, so it needs to come to us at the August meeting then?
What would be coming to us, a different recommendation? Or
Well,
Just
their
a
final-
recommendation in
Yeah.
general.
okay.
I would agree. Because I think if we're going to say no to SOAR, we have to say no to it before the school year starts. If we can't find a workaround.
Well, I think that we actually should say no to SORA now. If you want to find something else, but SORA's off the table, as far as I'm concerned. I read that stuff, there's no way in heck. And then we can be done with that conversation.
I don't disagree, because we still have the public library.
Right.
Like, it's that easy to go out and check out a book if you need it. But our responsibility is
what we
education-based books. That, unless it's some interesting science paper, most of that is not appropriate.
Right, unless something changes between now and then on what you can pick and choose in there, or we'll figure something out.
Yeah, if you can adjust it so we can guarantee that that's not going to hit the stream. So do we need to vote on that, or we just pass that down the line?
I do believe that SORA has the ability, because the lawsuit that was shared with me today, as soon as that lawsuit hit, that they were exposing young kids to sexually explicit material, they switched it to the tiers, where now you have the tiers. So it's like we've talked before, it's 2022, like I don't know how.
Yeah, well, I kind of can guess why it was that way, but the other thing is too, it's like if there's a bad movie, I don't watch it in my house. Number one, so the kids can't see it, but number two, because I'm not gonna give any of my money to Universal Studios for putting out that kind of crap, right? So, then that in my mind is like, I don't care now if they come up with tears. That particular organization is mud in my boat, but that's a decision that we'd all have to make together, I guess, if the committee deemed that we could revisit Sora, I guess.
There would just be so much to look through and make sure the filters are working right, which makes me nervous. Because we've already been told that it's really hard, that the filters are hard to put into place. Yes, we can do the tiers, but am I going to read through every young adult book? Because it was bad.
Oh, I know, I read it too.
I do think if we even keep it with the tiers, parents should sign off to say, yes, my kid can have access, no, they can't, because I think even with the tiers, I'd say no.
I just don't trust their filtering at this point.
Yeah, I guess me either. Well, then I guess that's a resounding no until they bring us something else to look at, and we'll look at it.
So are they, like all the books that we have in the library, are we concerned about anything else? Is that cart really all that we need to be concerned about, or?
I do think so.
Okay.
When we looked through it, I felt like we had good discussion, and there wasn't, we're not trying to get rid of all,
Yeah.
Material that has, like we talked about, happens to have a character, especially at the high school level. If there happens to be a character, that is gay, I wouldn't personally lose any sleep over it. But if it's sexually explicit, if it's indoctrination, if it's a bias, there was a handful of books that I shared with you that we pulled and deemed inappropriate, and then there were a handful that on the bottom that are most likely going back on the shelf that the committee just has to finish kind of going through. As far as a recommendation for a program, everyone on the committee, I don't know if anyone would even know where to start except for Marcy.
Well, that's
classroom and support staff.
That would probably be her job to get it to them to look at, I suppose.
So.
I think there's ways we could promote the public library too. Maybe even in the elementary opening day, would library staff be willing to be there and do cards for families?
Yeah, and I think that's the issue with Sora is Sora gives kids access to public libraries, which are for adults, and that's why they have access to, so those books are in there because they're in public libraries, so that's kind of the...
But that puts it on the parents then.
Yep.
It's not the school providing it.
Right.
So that's where, to me, it's different.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good, guys. Next on our business then is review of the 21-22 AGR Sage end of the year report.
Since they reformatted this thing, I'm not smart enough to figure out how to populate it onto a small piece of paper.
I feel like if you put it on a small piece of paper, we couldn't read it,
Yeah.
so thank you.
So if you recall, that we switched to a new screener this year, right? FastBridge, we used to use Star forever. Not forever, 7, 8, 9 years. We switched to FastBridge. If you recall, in the fall, we had a different percentage than we're used to seeing as far as lower. So remember what that percentage means. It's percentage of kids at benchmark. Okay? So if you recall from the fall, we saw a lot lower numbers to start out the year with, and then as we went through, we saw the FastBridge is a lot more rigorous test, especially in the reading part. So if you recall the conversations from the fall, is perhaps our STAR test was not measuring the right things. If FastBridge has given us some ugly truth, I guess that's part of the process here. So, and then the other thing
is that we're using a higher standard for what is benchmarked this year. So it used to be that it was either 25 or 30th percentile. So that range from 25 to 75% is considered average. So 25th percentile or higher was considered a benchmark, or maybe it was 30th. Anyway, now the benchmark is 40th percentile or higher. So it's actually Mrs. Hall in the winter and I had done kind of a comparison of if we had used the old standard versus the new standard of the 40th percentile. I think that accounts for a lot of our differences too, as we're using a higher standard for, so a student has to be 40th percentile. That means, we're saying almost every kid is above average. That's hard to do. That accounts for some of the numbers that we don't really like right now. That higher standard for the baseline, or for the benchmark, sorry, that's the word I was looking for, is more reflective of how difficult the forward exam is, or what their level of rigor is. So we said, well, we changed screeners this year, so this is a good time to bite the bullet and change the assessment that's being used, but also we up the level of the standard as well. So, like I said, so some of the numbers aren't that pretty to look at, but I guess it gives us, like I said, some truth to see and some things to dive into and continue to apply the work that we've been undertaking this past year.
So the third column is the baseline.
Baseline performance was fall, so that was in September. And then the one in the middle, fall semester, that was in January. And then the spring semester, that was in early May.
So the baseline was the fall, that was the start. And you said that was a different...
No, I'm saying from past years, we upped the level. So it used to be 40th, or this year we're saying you have to be at the 40th percentile on this test or better to be considered at benchmark. So this is what percentage of kids are above that line. Our old line that we used to use was 25th percentile. So that there's a higher level, a higher standard of what we're saying you have to be at in order to be considered a benchmark. In addition, I think from the fall, we realized that the Fast Bridge test is testing some different things that we...
So the baseline was set based on the STAR test.
No.
No,
that's the Fast Bridge test. All three of these are Fast Bridge, fall, winter, and spring.
So kindergarten really dropped from 62% to 20?
Is that because they really didn't have to know anything coming in?
I think that's what that is. What that means, the fall kindergarten screener is kind of like, I don't even know what it's based on. Because that's kind of stands out, doesn't it?
All right, because I was looking at thinking, I wonder if that's why they asked me to hold my son back in that class. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this recording.
There's definitely a difference between math and reading, in some of the early grades especially, the math scores are higher, which is interesting.
So what kind of plans are to address this?
Yeah,
Like, this is our facts.
Yep.
So now it doesn't look good. So what's our plan?
Yeah, so at the last meeting, remember we increased our number of days that we want to work with Teresa Stanley, our ELA consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part. So the work that we've been doing with her this year, we met with her for how many days? Was it 6 days or 8 days or something like that? And I'd say the work that we're doing with her is the most important work. So we've gone through the work over the years of identifying essential standards. All the ELA standards, there's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to filter through and say what are the most important ones for each grade level. So they call those essential standards. And we have important standards and then the nice to know ones. So we're identifying essential standards. Then we go through and have grade level vertical meetings and identify vertically from kindergarten to first to second. And so they see this pathway of what that looks like. What essential standards carry forward from one grade to the next. And then our next level where we're at is, developing common assessments. So at each grade level, so we've identified these standards. So if we're going to have standards-based assessment, then we need to make sure that we have a quality assessment that is actually measuring that ELA standard. We know that in the past, so you have an assessment or a test or a quiz that comes with the resource materials, a math quiz, a English test or reading test, whatever. Are they of high quality? Do they measure if they're actually meeting the standard? So that's the next phase of it. And then through this process, so that's kind of where we're at right now. So then through this process too, we've identified in ELA this year, in reading and language, we've identified, an issue with phonics and phonemic awareness in the primary grades like pre-K, K1 and 2. So we started using a new resource called Haggerty this year that focuses on phonemic awareness. We also identified, so we're purchasing some new resources that are focused on phonics and phonemic awareness, that the Reach for Reading curriculum, it's weak. We've identified that working with it with Teresa. It's weak in that area. So that's one area that was identified. Another one is, the writing strands as they work on writing from grade to grade. That's another area that we're going to trial some new resources with her recommendation next year. So I guess those are examples. The data meetings, when we meet at the end of the quarter and we look at this and we talk through it, and we throw the data on the wall and we talk through specific kids or groups of kids or trends that we're seeing. And then we also that's when we talk about interventions too. So we look at, if we've got a large percent of the class that's not meeting this standard, well, that's not an intervention. That means go back and do a reteach with 80% of the class. Versus if it's 5 or 10 students or 4 students, well, that's doing during intervention time to go back and do that. So those are the processes that we have used.
I would add in also that we're going to do the RTI solution trees, putting on right at CISA 11 next year. Response to intervention, basically to relook at what do we do when kids don't know it. So when we give that assessment and we have 30% of our kids that don't know it, how are we reteaching? What processes are we going through to make sure that they're meeting that benchmark? And I think that RTI Academy next year, which I think we're there 6 different times with the group from both buildings, is going to be very helpful too. I think right now, at least at this building, a lot of our RTI time is spent on work completion. Check the box that they've completed the work and not on the reteaching. And so trying to refocus on making sure that every kid not only completes the work, but the bigger issue is, are they understanding what's being taught?
Focus on skills, not just grades. So secondary level.
Do we have a goal, like what we want to be in 5 years on this?
Our goal is to have 80% of kids at benchmark.
Okay.
Yep.
195.
So is class size reduction, instructional coaching, and one-on-one tutoring, are those the only 3 options you have for strategy?
Mm-hmm. For AG, that's what AGR. Actually, it used to just be a class size reduction. The tutoring and the coaching are newer things about 5-6 years ago that they added as more flexibility. There's some catches with those. It has to, any of the tutoring has to be with someone who has a certified reading, special reading license and stuff like that. So there's some limitations on that too.
To qualify for this, for the AGR.
Yeah, to get the AGR funding. So, and then that is the reason why we do this report, is because of the AGR grant, the money that we get for those smaller class sizes with the younger grades, K through 3. And I added, the other grades on the bottom just for, that's been a topic of conversation in the past. We certainly track it and look at it for the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders too. So I just put that on there for information.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot of dominoes set up to push going forward, Chris.
There's a lot of
all the
work to do.
You guys have been done.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to keep doing. I think we're doing the right work. I feel like we are close to getting over that hump, I hope. We're doing the right work. I'm convinced of that. And we talk about the professional learning community process and that training that we go to in the summer with a group of people. That's that whole focus of what we talked about, is having, looking at your essential standards, aligning them vertically, making sure you have valid assessments to assess the standards, and then going back and say, okay, what are we teaching? What do all kids need to know and be able to do? How do we know if they can do it? Which is assessment, and then what do we do when they can't? And then what do we do if they've already mastered it? So those are the essential questions of a PLC, and that's what is focused on this work. The same thing for math.
the compensation plan too also plays a role in this as far as attracting and retaining staff. I mean, the research shows that that's the number one variable. Teachers are the number one variables for student growth, and to keep our good teachers in the district is, the most important piece to making sure scores are going up.
Well, so with the challenges that we've had, COVID, whatever else that's been going on, along with all this work that we've been trying to get done, hopefully we're in a place where the work can kind of lessen in that degree, and we can just kind of start focusing on teaching our kids.
Yeah.
Getting this, all right, what do we need? We get it in line, and we can just, let's see what happens now. So,
Yeah, there's lots of work to do. No doubt.
All right. Thank you for that, Chris. The next item is discussion / approval of adding additional staffing, behavior support.
Mr. Peterson's gonna share on this one as well.
Yeah, so we've talked quite a bit at the board level here about some of the challenges with social emotional behavior concerns with some of our youngest learners, like our little ones, and related to or perhaps amplified by some of the COVID issues in our society, probably amplified by it, I would say. So throughout the year, we've made a big emphasis of that, and Mrs. Jacobchek is here tonight. She has been a big leader, along with Mrs. Millar, our counselor, who's our outgoing counselor, in working with the staff on trauma-informed practices. So how do we help students who have experienced trauma and therefore have hard time with emotional regulation? Like, how do we work with those kids effectively to keep them regulated, to re-regulate them when they're off? So that's been a big focus of re-emphasis again this year with their training. And then we also asked Mrs. Schieffer, who retired a couple of years ago. This is a passion of hers in an area where she's actually done presentations at CSA 11 to other schools about how to work with kids with behavior regulation and behavior health. And so she's been a big part of this too. And so she's actually been coming in a day or two a week and working in classrooms and working with students and then modeling plans and strategies with students for the teacher or in the teacher room, so the teacher can learn. So it's been a really cool model and really effective. And I think the teachers, if they were here, and Mrs. Anderson's been part of this, but we're not inviting the crowd to speak necessarily, but just she'd be an example of spending time in her room and working with different strategies with kids. So when students are dysregulated currently, it's okay, who can help? Mrs. Millar can help, Mrs. Jacobchek can help, Mr. Peterson can help. Maybe there's a para who's free right now that they can come and help, and maybe it's taking a student for a walk, maybe it's taking them to a quiet place and doing some movement activities with them, or sensory activities to try to just calm their body down, or maybe it's coming down by the office and talking with me or something like that. So there's lots of different strategies in place, but it's sort of scattershot in a way, because it's, well, who can help? Who can help? So Mrs. Jacobchek, Mrs. Millar, Mrs. Schieffer doing some research on what's effective, and so have looked into what some other schools are doing, and they have what's called, we don't have necessarily a name for it yet, but a room where it's a place where you would have a staff member who can help students with regulation. And the goal would be if we had someone dedicated to this, and what we're thinking is some of our current paras would be interested in helping to staff this room. So then if we're looking at extra staffing, it would be to replace the time that they would take to staff this room. And so what we want to be able to do is be more proactive. So instead of waiting till the student is bubbling up and out of control or dysregulated, we have students who have behavior support plans where we could have breaks that are proactive, like scheduled breaks. Every morning at a certain time, we know that, Johnny benefits from taking a walk with Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. And so, or they go to the room and there's a process that they would go through that's structured to help them stay regulated. And so when we were doing the planning for this room, we talked about, okay, what's the vision or what's the goal for the room? Like, why does it exist? So what we came up with is we're trying to build student skills, okay? So we're trying to build their stamina to be able to be successful in the classroom. The goal is for the student to stay in the classroom and be successful and stay regulated. So the goal is to build student skills for stamina in the classroom, for emotional regulation, formed in an understanding of trauma-informed care and support for growth with lagging skills. So the understanding or the assumption is that if a student is not able to meet expectations for behaviors in rooms because they have a skill that they're lagging, they're lacking. And this is Jacob. Check if you want to chime in, you can, because that's part of the reason why you're here tonight. But they're lagging. They're not choosing to be this way. They're not choosing to be dysregulated. They have lagging skills, and they need help in teaching and instruction on how to improve those skills so they can be regulated. So the goal of having this space would be to be more systematic with it, to have people who are trained, to have a better specific system in place to help kids stay regulated and to track the learning. So that it's not just, so-and-so was having a meltdown and Mr. Peterson got called for help and we were able to get things back on track and they were able to go back to class. Well, having it be more systematic and documented and documenting the learning that's involved and the skill building that's involved, I guess. So if I'm explaining it right. Proactive maintenance of a calmer classroom environment is a goal, and operating within the context of the school-wide behavior supports. In other words, our behavior plan for all kids in the school, it needs to operate within that. So, students are still held accountable for their behavior, can still have, discipline referrals, things like that. But this is a level that hopefully wards off some of that, and so that students aren't getting to the level where they're having discipline referrals and out of control physically or emotionally. And work with students who currently have IEPs and can work within that system. So it needs to all fit together. So that would be the goal of this. And so we're looking at an additional staff member to help staff the room. So that's a lot of questions.
Have you got a staff member or somebody in mind for the position?
We have a couple of staff members currently who we do have in mind or that have expressed interest and that we think would be very skilled in the area and probably would split the room. So it wouldn't just be one person, but it'd be two people, like morning and afternoon. That way they'd be cross-trained. One of them is absent and the other one does do the whole day. Or then there's just more cross-training involved. So one of the keys, I think, and again, this Jacob chime in, they visited a couple of different schools and got some ideas, but we need to make it our own plan. We're not going to do it exactly like anyone else, but that was one of the keys that we know is we have to set it up right. There has to be staff training about what the room is and what the room isn't, what it should be used for, what it shouldn't be used for. How, developing the procedures and the forms. So if a student goes to take a break in the room, like there needs to be tracking and, documentation of what was done and what the plan is.
So it'd be an additional 1.0 support staff, FTE.
So would it be 2.5s then, and that would save us from some...
Well, even if it's 2.5s within, it'd be total 1.0 additional that we're asking for from the board.
Like there's two people that are currently full-time, but they would be, each working in their half, and then the other half of their day they would continue to do their other duties that they do right now. Supporting kids with IEPs.
I was kind of hoping you'd say I got a couple of retired teachers that would want to do this half-time, and we wouldn't have to have, health insurance tagged along, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or we could save some money that way.
It's going to be more of a support staff, para support, but we got some awesome paras that are definitely up to the task. So it'd be, if we're taking two halves of time away from two people, we just need to hire somebody to cover that other two halves of time.
And I think when we visited the other schools, one piece that they were missing was how does this generalize to the classroom? Because I'm a big believer in that. Whatever you teach or instruct the child until they can be taught how to do it in their regular classroom where they are every day, you could keep hiring, and it could never end. So we wanted to do like some tracking with the data and follow up with the teachers, like why is it this time of day? How can we help them learn these skills, these calming skills in the classroom, and kind of setting up like calm down areas for them processing through. So that was a piece that we added on that I think is really important. And I think it could be done. I know Mary Schieffer kind of wanted to help with that piece, and I think it would be really powerful the way we figured out what was missing from what they were doing. It it was, like I said, I know you could just keep hiring, but I think what our plan and our vision is that it could be really effective for them to learn how to be calmer in the classroom, and then follow up with the teacher on to help teach them those strategies, or what strategies to use, what are the triggers, and so on.
So is there, along with this, like say you've got a child that's got some type of a regulating problem, does this reach back into taking a look at the parents' lives and saying, here's some resources for you guys to help, you know what I mean? Is it a full circle type of a?
Yeah, I mean, we do that now,
kind of
you know,
thing?
yeah, we definitely do that now, so right now we have a building assistance team process, which, if a student, especially young, is struggling and the teacher is saying, hey, I've used up my tools in the toolbox and I'm not having success, the, building assistance team is Mrs. Jacobchak, the counselor, the teacher, put their heads together to start to brainstorm some plans and some interventions to use to try things, and then usually, and then there's parent communication.
Parents come in, okay.
Yep. So that's where that parent communication comes in usually.
So students wouldn't be alone in this room?
Never. No, that's why we need staffing. Yeah.
Because the first thing I thought of was the box in Amory, like years ago. I'm like, we do not want that kind of publicity.
Yeah.
So,
We have some really cool
and Mary
ideas.
Schieffer's husband probably remembers that event.
I remember in the paper.
It was famous. We had some really cool ideas too, of kind of having a very structured, calm environment so it's predictable, so they can get away from that auditory stimuli. And it's loud in schools or whatever else is going on, and then the interpersonal things that are difficult for them to navigate through. This can be a predictable time if they have a scheduled break where they can go in. They have like 5 minutes to just calm. We're like want to control like how many choices they have, so they're not just going in and seeing 50 toys and what are they going to do. So it's very structured with kind of like 3 different type tests that they'll do, and then processing, and then follow up with the teachers.
Okay.
It was helpful to do those visits, and then we just kind of added on to what we thought was missing with it.
Will there be a popcorn machine in that room?
It
No.
will not.
There should be.
Is this
Everybody
for,
relaxes when they eat popcorn, don't they?
is this for multiple kids then, or is it gonna be like portioned off, or?
It has to be, there has to be a limit on how many kids can be in there. And then another thing to understand too is that it's not for a student who's out of control. They don't go there. Like, it's for, the student needs to be able to walk themselves there by choice to go take a break. If the student is already out of control, they're not a candidate to go to this room. That's not what the room is for. And, we have students who have IEPs who get lots of behavior support currently. Well, those students could still make use of this room in a planned break, like with a planned break, but not necessarily, if they're having a really big issue, this probably isn't the room where they go. So, like currently we have students who, especially little ones, who were going through that process of that building assistance team, and we haven't gotten to the point where like we're trying different interventions. So, if things don't get better, it may lead to the student having an IEP and needing more, intensive help. But sometimes they're in that limbo where like, well, we don't really know quite how much support they need. This is kind of what that's for, is for those kids. So,
Well, I don't think you gotta ask twice for what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Chris, so.
there's a definite need. So,
Yeah.
And I think we got a great plan and great people to implement it.
So I move to approve the additional behavior support.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the additional staffing for behavior support. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of the bus garage floor upgrade.
Okay, so I realized in the printout I gave you two of the same, they're different, but they're the two same companies. So the second bid, so we only have 2 bids. Tom asked this to be brought to the board, but it might have to be tabled just because there's only 2 bids right now. This one's the second one, if you guys want to see that. So what he's asking for is the part of the bus garage is dirt floor. So he's looking at potentially.
You sent it to us.
Did I send that one to you? Oh, I did? Okay, I didn't print it off then. Sorry. So in the print offs, I printed the 2. Oh no, that one is in here. So these 2 are the exact same. From the Darren Crows.
yeah.
Those are the same bid. So there's actually only 2, not 3. But anyway, the dirt floor, the part of the bus garage is dirt floor. The moisture that's coming up is causing vehicles that are stored in there to rust a lot quicker. He's looking for a concrete floor to be put into those. So it's up to you if you guys want to table that and see if we get a third bid, or if you want Tom to come in and ask him more questions, or if you want to move forward.
When does he need this done by?
There's no rush on this, yeah. So if you wanted to, I mean, if this would fall, it wouldn't, regardless, there's no way it'd be on this fiscal year's budget, so it'd be next year, or, yeah, most likely next year. But it is, it's a substantial.
How is the whole garage? The whole thing? I mean, if we're gonna start looking at physical needs of Fund 46, can we kind of have this conversation with where's all of our physical needs, and maybe it's the whole garage? What are other things that we're looking at for this Fund 46? Is this the biggest priority on physical needs? No, I don't know.
Yeah, bus garage, I mean, this is definitely a concern. Like I said, the track, that area is in need of some repair.
Are you saying why put 27,000 into something that we're doing?
Right, what's the roof like? It's all old cement around the outside. What's the whole building like? If we're just gonna fix the floor, maybe we need to look at that whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that that probably wouldn't be a bad idea, although I redid the roof on that not too.
2014.
Yeah, they said the roof is good. But one other big item, just to kind of throw ideas out there, we looked at possibly building a big shed, and then we explored, we reached out to Next Gen to possibly purchase that one. And it just, those are really, it's expensive. When we were researching, the costs of building and purchasing were very expensive. So that's something that we have no storage in the district to, for items which is why we're renting that storage during that COVID stretch. So, there's definitely some areas that you guys could consider, and this is one of them.
Well, I don't know. I will entertain a motion, I guess.
I think I would say let's wait and let's see what some of the big physical stuff are that we need and pricing. I mean, all of a sudden, are we looking at different things? Did that questionnaire that we got, didn't it have some things about bus garage that Mr. Crawford summarized in there too?
As far as the next superintendent, that survey?
Yeah, wasn't there something about that building? Or was there, I thought I remember seeing some concerns about the bus garage, something.
Yeah, I don't know if those individuals would have a true understanding of.
Is it big enough? How's the fix-it area?
Yeah. That'd probably be something Tom could definitely answer. I do know the area that he has concern, those are legit concerns as far as the moisture that's coming up, causing rust a lot quicker than the area, the items that we store in the area that has concrete. Those items don't have as much rust.
So we re-roofed it fairly recently since I've been here, and I know we re-stuccoed the outside since I've been here, so that's like 15 years or so. But it's starting to show itself a little bit on the outside again.
Maybe Tom can do a little assessment of what he'd like to have done and come and present, and then we can talk about this too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good to me. All right. Next item of business then is approval of 22-23 physical and occupational therapy contracts.
Okay, so the PTOT contract is in there for you guys to review. And at the very last page of that document is the current rates. Yep. So what they charge per hour for PT, PTA, OT.
Are these the same that we've already got going?
They went up a little bit. Do you know?
I do not. I don't know if I saw that.
I want to say, Teddy, do you know? I know we talked about them.
But they're the same company that we've had for a while.
So the contract is the same, just the prices are different?
Yeah. So $71.50 was the PT.
No, So,
So it went up a couple bucks.
I don't know if you have any kids doing PT right now, they're all doing OT.
that would make sense.
Um,
$350 or so, huh?
Considering how much everything else has gone up, that's,
Yeah.
I move to approve the 22-23 physical and occupational therapy contract.
second.
Properly moved and seconded to approve the 22-23 physical and occupational therapy contracts. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of a CNC machine purchase.
Okay, so Mr. Larson has joined us. I gave in your packet, you have the kind of proposal that Mr. Larson wrote up for you, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Larson to do his sales pitch.
So I'm looking at a CNC router. I've talked to a lot of other tech ed departments. I've seen a lot of tech ed departments. It is kind of getting to be a standard. A lot of them go with a large 4x8 machine, which I don't think we need it. We did a lot of research when we bought the CNC plasma cutters too, and one of the first things that some of the other tech ed teachers said was, do you have a forklift to put a sheet of steel onto a CNC plasma table that's 4x8? Because you're not going to pick up a 1/4 inch sheet of steel by yourself. And I kind of think the same thing with the CNC router. I don't foresee us making 4x8 signs and anything that large. So I think the one I'm looking at is a 2x4. I've done a ton of research on it. They come highly recommended. Reviews are high on them. The price tag, what I was trying to avoid was the $20,000 to $30,000 price tag that you get when you go with an industrial machine. This one is probably a step lower. Price tag is a step lower. Still large, but they do offer a lot of training. They offer curriculum that goes along with it. Customer service, the few times that I've called has been great. This is another piece of equipment that we're looking kind of cross-curricular. The CNC plasma cutters this year and welding, one of the things that they did is they cut out the steel and then they come over to the wood shop and they want to cut out a piece of wood and then they epoxy their steel into it. It's hard to cut a circle with a router and make it perfect. It's something that we're looking at for woods class, metals class, materials and manufacturing, employability skills. And then we start talking about vertical alignment, looking at getting kids as freshmen into a CAD class so that we can build on those computer skills through things like woods and metals and construction, doing architecture, all the different things. It's by no means an end all. It's another tool to hopefully get them to a place where they have a goal and a vision and see their future.
I don't see where you have robotic milkers on the list.
Yeah.
That is next. My robotic stuff is next on my list here, so that might be a year or two. I don't know if it'll be specific to milkers, but yeah, robotics is on the list.
I'm good with it.
I am too.
I move to approve the CNC machine purchase.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the CNC machine purchase. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is consideration and approval of home-based education participation.
Okay, so I have the next page.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mr. Larson.
Thank you.
Family request, a homeschool request to have their child attend 2 classes. So I attached the board policy in there as well. Board policy, they can request up to 2 classes each semester. Kind of 2 school of thoughts with that one as far as homeschool kids attending, one. If you say no, which is against board policy, but if you do say no, then encourage them to force them kind of into the district. We've taken the approach, or it's been past practice where you guys have approved those two, and then the thought is that they'll attend school here, or if it's extracurricular, and then like it, and then hopefully enroll into more classes. So the request is in there. There's no guarantee. They did list those 3 kind of classes where the homeschool families are kind of at the mercy of the schedule, and their timeline. If they are only available in the morning, then they really are restricted to whatever classes are offered in the morning. So there's not a guarantee of those classes unless they are willing to come in at the time that those classes are offered. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
I move to approve the home-based education participation by this individual.
Second.
Yeah, I think we welcome him into our school. Can we require that they sing our fight song in front of the whole assembly?
You could, I guess.
They might never come back.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the 22-23 WIA membership renewal.
Okay, so each year the WIA Association requires all school boards to approve their membership. It's been past practice to approve the high school and the middle school. So that's why there's 2 renewal membership. The sports are already checked in there. So if you don't approve this, you might have some parent issues on your hand. So.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the 2022-23 WIA membership.
Second.
I got a question. Why are there more boys sports than girls sports? Are we supposed to be equal?
Well, the ones that are just the boys are like wrestling, for example. Girls
Yeah.
can participate in that as well. So there's not a specific girls wrestling. Although there is now a girls state tournament, and if we happen to have girls that were on the boys team this year, they could participate in the girls state tournament down in Madison.
We don't have girls golf, but girls participate in boys.
Okay.
So same, yeah.
You have the
Title IX.
yep.
All right, did we already do the, did we do a motion already?
You gotta.
Say approval, then first
It's
and
been
seconded.
second. Motion
All right,
second.
the motion's been properly moved and seconded to approve the WIA membership renewal. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, the next item of business is the approval of board policy 142.5, vacancies.
So I gave you the policies. The vacancies is the first one. The second one is the one that they didn't really recommend. He just kind of suggest. He said many districts are kind of hanging tight on the policy 0165.1. I gave you our current policy on that one. I gave you the updated one just because it's kind of a hot topic. So, but vacancies is not a hot topic. That's just.
So if one of us moves out of district, we have to
We're not
resign.
doing anything.
If you move out of district, yep.
Right,
If
green is Ed.
a board member resigns at any time, then the board has the decision to either appoint someone until the next election, I believe,
Yep.
or operate with, in our case, would be just 4 members instead of 5.
So even if you open and enrolled your kids, but you didn't live within the district.
You have to reside in the
Yeah.
district, yep.
In case I want to move.
Yeah, I read that. No, I read
What
that.
my
You guys
geography
good
is.
with that one?
Yep,
Yeah.
I move to approve the policy 142.5 for vacancies.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded for policy 0142.5. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next board policy is 0165.1, human growth and development.
So the black and white one is our current policy, and the one with the red and green is the updated policy.
Bad colors for me, Josh.
What's that?
They're bad colors.
Yeah.
Colorblind. This and the red ones are crossed out.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So the green would be bolder. Can you see?
Yeah, I can.
So are we option 2? Not really checked. For,
Well, yeah, that'd be,
Okay.
I would imagine. So option 1 is that there's no
like, we're
instruction.
not going to do it. which
Yeah,
is not
currently we
really-
provide human growth and development
Right.
instruction, so it'd be option 2.
Yep.
Okay.
and then
So in this, it talks about the term marriage. Exactly how would that be taught? That's a pretty broad term.
Maybe in some people's world it is.
No, I'm just saying, when you talk about a hot topic, that's the definition of some of these words really matters.
I'd have to talk to Mr. Amundson if that's even touched on. I'm not
I
sure.
know, I'm just wondering, like, does that need to be included in the curriculum?
I know when Alicia originally pitched it to you guys,
Yep.
the conversation was to provide knowledge on it, but to not promote any one
One way or
way.
the
So if
other.
I had to guess, and this is 100% a best guess, if that even is touched on, I would assume that it would be touched in a way that, marriage, the legal version of
Yep.
marriage, and what that would look like in the
Yep.
state of Wisconsin.
I'm seeing the part like in the context of address the positive connection between marriage and parenting.
Yeah.
What about the citizen advisory committee shall be established?
Where are you at?
Third paragraph from the very bottom where they list the
Last
state
page.
statutes, the very last page. It's G and then it's a little more red, and then the first sentence of black, where it has the green in that paragraph.
You have one more committee to form.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's in there.
Yeah. Is this, this isn't because I'm not going to be here, but is this something you guys want to table?
But, yes.
Yes. I feel like there is a lot more to this than
And
just approving
I
it.
just-
Like this one.
Just because I think there's some questions that only, probably Mr. Amundson could
Yeah.
answer, so he might be, a key player to bring to the table to have these conversations of what's being taught in there. And
Well, I think it needs to
Well,
lend to curriculum.
But the thing is, this is this is the rules that we're setting for him. This is,
Right,
this is.
so this would help determine curriculum.
right.
So I don't think we gotta wait for him to come in. Let's just muddle through it and be done with it. If you guys are okay with that. If we need to get a citizen advisory committee,
And it doesn't say how often the Citizens Advisory Committee has to meet.
Right.
It may be a one-time meeting to give advice on this policy or review the policy, and then that may be it,
I can't say I've been extremely impressed with Mr. Amundson. If I had to pick a teacher to teach this to my own kids, he'd be at the top of the list. He's doing a really nice job.
good.
So if you guys want to go through it, then even from anywhere there's after option 2, anywhere there's parentheses, needs to be decided if you want that verbiage in the policy or not.
Oh, like checked it off.
What's that?
Like checking these off?
Yep.
I like to, yeah, I would check all of those off. All of these.
Like, what are you checking?
What number are you?
1, 2, 5, 7.
Mhm.
Are we fine with that on the
Yeah.
first page?
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 5, 7, yep.
Okay.
And then 8, 9, 10, 11 on the second.
Yeah.
And then 1 through 4. And the next bullet. And then I think it's the last page, then I think it would be the board authorizes the curriculum to include separating students on the basis of gender as determined by the committee.
Mhm.
And then I will entertain a motion if you guys are comfortable with it.
And then, Chris, we need to form a committee. Welcome.
I move to approve board policy 0165.1, human growth and development.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve board policy 165.1, human growth and development. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And if I can add, just being able to go through that particular board policy that smoothly says a lot for the community that we live in, so.
Yeah, it does.
Then we'll move on to the next board policy, 5410, promoting placement and retention.
So no options to choose, just some of the changes.
Yeah, I wrote that was good.
Yep. I move to approve board policy 5410, promotion, placement, and retention.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve board policy 5410. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is board policy 8450, control of casual contact communicable diseases.
I move to approve board policy 8450.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve board policy 8450. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is our superintendent notes. Dr. Joshua R. Ernst.
Only thing I'd like to say is I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but it's truly been a privilege and an honor to be here. The last 7 years have been amazing on a personal and professional level. I couldn't thank the board enough. It's been a wonderful board to work for. I couldn't have handpicked a better board. It's been a great district for me, like I said, professionally, but also more importantly, personally. Our kids have really benefited from the Clear Lake School District and community. We're leaving a lot of friends behind, and we're really going to miss it here. I know I've said that to you guys all before, but it was an extremely difficult decision. It was a decision to go to our hometown, both my wife and I's hometown. It was still an extremely difficult decision. So I just want to say thank you. It really, from the bottom of my heart and my wife and our kids, it's really going to be a hard place to leave. And this was a great experience the last 7 years. It was a wonderful time, and specifically the last 2 years, when in most districts across the state, I couldn't imagine navigating the last 2 years in my role with a not even a dysfunctional board, but a low functioning board. You guys really did a phenomenal job supporting the admin team, supporting me, and so I appreciate it. I wish Mr. Peterson the best of luck, and I wish Mrs. Anderson in her new role the best of luck as well, and wish Clear Lake nothing but the best. So I appreciate it, and wanted to thank you guys. So thank you.
Gosh, yeah. Okay, then we'll move into contemplated closed session. Thanks for coming, all you. In accordance with WSS 19.85.
Mrs. Anderson,
1C.
you could leave the binder if you want. We house them in in here, so if you want to just leave it, we'll just keep adding stuff, so when you... Sorry about that.
your kitchen counter.
The body
Can't take it
has
with you.
jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. I will poll the board.
Yes.
Eddie? Skip?
Yes.
Myself, yes? Kristen?
Yes.
Okay.
We can do,
One at a time.
Ms. Anderson, why don't you stay? We'll go one at a time.
All right, we are in closed session. All right, we're back to open session. I will enter, well, let's talk about future agenda items. Does anybody have anything they'd like to put on our future agenda? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.